Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is the latest entry in the long-running Ghostbusters franchise that first began with the original back in 1984. Since then, it has spawned everything from sequels to remakes, an animated series, and now this new set of almost soft reboots that started with Ghostbusters Afterlife in 2021. Despite the series' many ups and downs, for a lot of people, Frozen Empire is a new low. From being the lowest or occasionally second lowest reviewed across all platforms and an abysmal box office performance, with it currently, as of the recording of this video, sitting as the lowest grossing of them all by about $4 or $5 million. So, what went wrong? Why the negative reviews? Why the poor performance? And what could have been done differently to save this movie from this fate? Well, folks, let's find out. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today's video, I am going to be discussing what exactly went wrong with Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, and how I think they could have saved it. Before I hop into the actual video itself, I just wanted to let you all know that I have carefully curated playlists for every type of video I do, be it video essays like this one, ranking videos, top 10s versus videos, and so much more. There is a playlist for all, so I encourage you to explore the channel a little, and I guarantee you'll find something you like. And so, without further ado, let's hop right into things. As per usual, there is a little house cleaning to take care of first. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire was directed by Gil Kenan, taking over for the late Ivan Reitman's son, Jason Reitman, who sat in the director's chair for the previous entry, Afterlife. The movie once again stars Paul Rudd, McKenna Grace, Finn Wolfhard, Carrie Coon, Logan Kim, and now new entries Kumail Nanjiani and Patton Oswalt, as well as seeing the return of Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, Ernie Hudson, and Annie Potts from the OG Ghostbusters crew. The story follows Ghostbusters, new and old, as they must join forces to protect the world from a second ice age when an ancient evil returns following the discovery of a mysterious artifact. As I mentioned earlier, this movie really hasn't been reviewing all that well, nor is it getting much traction at the box office. Whether you take reviews seriously or not is up to yourself, but I'm going to mention them anyway for the sake of having a point of reference. On IMDb, Frozen Empire sits at a 6.1 out of 10, with the next lowest being the original sequel, Ghostbusters 2, which has a 6.6. On Metacritic, it has the second lowest score by just 1 point. It currently holds a 46, with Afterlife holding a 45. Those are the two lowest by a far margin too, as the next lowest is once again Ghostbusters 2 with a 56. If we turn our attention to Rotten Tomatoes, Frozen Empire has the lowest critic score with a painfully low 42%, with the next closest being 55%, and that was, you guessed it, Ghostbusters 2. The audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, though, is actually not that bad, with it resting nicely on 83%, however, that's only with 2,500 reviews. As for the box office numbers, Frozen Empire, while still in theaters in some locations, is now out on digital and physical media, so I would say it's probably stuck sitting where it's at, and that is at $201 million. Not a bad number in some cases, but the budget came in at a staggering $100 million. Which is the second highest of the franchise. Afterlife similarly only made $204 million, but that was in 2021 when things were still in the shitter, and also had a budget of only $75 million. The original is the highest grossing of them all, with $296 million off of only a $30 million budget. Even the 2016 movie managed to make $229 million, and Ghostbusters 2 did $215 million. So yes, it's more than fair to say that Ghostbusters movies have never been big box office darlings. For Frozen Empire to make almost $100 million less than the original, with a budget that was $70 million higher, just shouldn't happen. Despite all of the boycotts, backlash, and review bombing of the 2016 movie, it's still going to end up making almost $30 million more than Frozen Empire. However, that movie did somehow also have an insane budget of $144 million, but that's a different story for a different video. Now, with all of that out of the way, we can get into the real meat and potatoes. What went wrong? How did this iconic franchise fall so far in the eyes of many, boasting series low review scores and box office numbers despite the classic status held by the original two flicks, which to this day are still shown on television and watched in millions of homes on repeat during Halloween season? First thing that needs to be addressed is just the general state of movie theaters and the box office over the last little while. This of course is a much larger conversation in of itself, so I am only going to touch on it very briefly, because it does still need to be mentioned as it is automatically baked into this kind of conversation these days. Movies are flopping left, right, and center, with the future of movie theaters now in question more than ever. The simple fact of the matter is that no one has been able to nail down just one or two reasons why this is happening. People way smarter than me have been trying to dissect this for the last couple of years, and it seems like the list of reasons why continues to fluctuate. Some of the reasons, though, are that people are just becoming more selective of what they see in theaters. Not everyone is running out to the theater every weekend just to see whatever is new like they used to. People pay more attention to reviews than they ever have before. Part of that is the studios, or at least the marketing's fault, as they keep plastering the Rotten Tomatoes scores all over their post-release trailers to try and get audiences interested. Nowadays, there are even multiple options too, from Rotten Tomatoes to IMDb to Metacritic and Letterboxd too, which has really started to take off recently. People are getting really tired of nostalgia baiting. Not even just nostalgia though, that's a good example to go with this movie in particular, Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire. But it seems like every single movie we get these days is a sequel, prequel, reboot, remake, spin-off, or part of some larger interconnected movie universe. This problem in particular does irritate me though, because a lot of the same people who complain about this also don't go out and support the original ideas that continue to flop either, so you can't have it both ways. The next one is an obvious one, and that's that ticket prices are too damn high. For my girlfriend and I, it's about $30 to go to a regular movie. Not IMAX, not 3D or 4DX or anything. I've also been told by some friends of mine from the US that those are actually pretty low prices compared to what they have to pay on average. Then you get into people with families. In some cases, parents are looking at over $100 just for the tickets alone. Don't even get me started on snacks. We don't get snacks at the movies because the prices are genuinely disturbing. Of course, there is an even larger conversation there too about the prices of everything these days. The last one I'll mention here is streaming. Plainly and simply, people would rather wait and watch it in the comfort of their own home. This one also has multiple strands to it. People have been having horrible experiences at the movies lately. People talking out loud on their phones, screaming kids, just no public or theater etiquette whatsoever. Things have been coming to streaming after only weeks, not months anymore. Some movies that do well stay long, but some movies are hitting streaming or announcing that they will be streaming after only 2 weeks in theaters, if not even less in some cases. Not to mention there are so many sites to stream movies, download / torrent, and so on. So people just think, why wouldn't I sit on my own couch in my own home, act how I want, eat what I want, pause when I want, and watch it for free? Those are the external factors in my humble opinion. The factors outside of the movie itself. People paying more attention to reviews and online chatter, sequel, prequel, spin-off, and so on fatigue, ticket and snack prices, and streaming. So what about the movie itself? I can't fix those problems. Those are easy to fix in theory. Lower the ticket prices, don't be an asshole when you're at the movie theater, give movies at least a month or more exclusively in theaters, and so on. But the domino effect much of those fixes would create are beyond my knowledge, and will also likely never happen. We're just living in a different world now than we were in 2019 and before. The story problems are the main focus of this video today, and how I think they could have shaken things up, which would have led to a much more positive reception and thus a better turnaround for Sony and the Ghostbusters franchise. Last thing I want to say is that I obviously don't speak for everyone here. Lots of people enjoyed this movie, and that's great. I'm all for that. If you're one of those people, then that's totally cool with me. This is just my 2 cents on the matter. To give the quickest possible rundown of my problems with the story that I feel led to the negative reception and the low box office numbers, we can start with the slow build-up, as in the movie goes at a snail's pace. The Frozen Empire part of Frozen Empire doesn't even happen until roughly the hour and 23 or 26-ish minute mark. It's all build-up. That might sound not too bad when you look at the 2-hour runtime, but things actually wrap up about 20 minutes later. There's around 10 minutes of credits. Not to mention the Frozen Empire literally consists of the shots shown in the trailer and then the entrance of the Ghostbusters firehouse. We don't actually get to see anything cool. No iconic landmarks, no big action sequences, nothing. I felt there were no meaningful character arcs whatsoever. Who is different by the movie's end? Who goes through any sort of substantial change? Whose story is supposed to keep us locked in and engaged? Which main character is supposed to draw any emotion out of us? The sole purpose of the movie seems to be, we have this mysterious ball, let's run tests on it and figure out where it came from. No one in here undergoes any sort of change or faces any adversity or learns any lessons. Speaking about that mystery ball, the movie is so awkwardly exposition heavy. We have Kumail Nanjiani, who is the best character in the movie, I might add, just telling us about his grandmother. Then Patton Oswalt appears for one scene to tell us the villain's entire backstory. We go to that new Ghostbusters lab where they run their tests and tell us even more. None of it feels natural or has any flow. It doesn't get delivered to the audience in any satisfying or interesting way. It feels like we're being sat down and taught everything in the most digestible, spoon-fed way. Though I will say, exposition is also another tricky one. I will give them that. Plenty of movies suffer from this, but this one in particular felt a little more egregious to me than others. Next up, the painfully shoehorned in nostalgia. The long and short of it is this: the only original Ghostbuster that actually needed to be in there and had any place in the movie at all was Aykroyd. Murray appeared for like 3 minutes. They tried to give Hudson some agency in the story, but his role could have been played by literally anyone, and Potts had like 5 lines maybe. Then you have some of the other usual suspects like your Slimer, and other ghosts like the library lady, and the typical one-liners, callbacks, and so on. So much of this movie just felt like it was a 2-hour machine for nostalgia. The second to last issue I had with the movie was that the plot was also super predictable. Like, I knew right away that Melody was in cahoots with the bad guy. You know that Phoebe is going to save the day, you know no one is going to die. They do the typical mothership trope where once they take down the bad guy, the rest of the problem just fixes itself. You know the kids will accept Paul Rudd's character as their new father figure, although the dad line felt very awkward and forced.
Guys, maybe put on your packs.
All right, Dad. Gary.
You know, the Ghostbusters won't be shut down or lose their firehouse. Everything is just very, very safe and by the numbers. Also, I feel like half of what was shown in the trailers wasn't actually in the movie. Like, the trailers really sold us on the Frozen Empire part of Frozen Empire, and we got none of that. There are shots, lines, and moments that I was looking forward to that don't seem to be in here at all. That's not the most uncommon thing. Some movies do it to purposely avoid spoilers or keep secrets hidden. Some things get cut along the way through the editing process, or alternate shots, takes are used, but I noticed a fair bit of it with this one. The last point I want to touch on is the absolutely lackluster villain. The villain sucked. There's no way around it. There's no way anyone can convince me otherwise or convince me that they actually liked this villain. They were barely in the movie, had a generic demon design, and had no lines or did anything even remotely cool or memorable. And then the final battle undeniably sucks ass. Once again, the trailers built up this super cool second Ice Age setting, and instead we get a brief montage of things freezing, which we got in the trailer, and then the last 15 minutes, which is the whole final battle, takes place exclusively in the entrance of the firehouse. Not in Times Square, not the Empire State Building, or near the Statue of Liberty. Nope. The driveway inside the firehouse. It basically breaks down like this. Little haunted tricycle drives to the door. The doors become possessed and fall over. Car becomes possessed and drives forward. Villain arrives. Ghostbusters' weapons do nothing. They are pushed against the walls by the ice picks. Phoebe shows up. The villain gets hurt, which frees the old Ghostbusters up for a scene together where they pull a lever in the basement. Ghostbusters win. We don't leave the firehouse. Ghosts that escaped end up back in the container. Ice Age ends. People randomly surround the firehouse and applaud the Ghostbusters. Movie ends. To wrap up this section, the problems I've identified are the slow build-up, the frozen empire mentioned in the title barely exists in the movie at all, there are no meaningful character arcs, the plot is exposition heavy and super predictable, there is so much shoehorned in nostalgia, the villain sucks, and the final battle is extremely underwhelming. That's a lot. Now, what could they have done to improve or even save this movie altogether? In my honest opinion, it's really quite simple. Follow the flow of the first teaser trailer. Now, hold on for just 1 second and hear me out. I am fully aware, completely understand, and agree that most movie trailers these days show way too much. Sometimes they're showing straight up spoilers. Sometimes they show us the entire layout of the movie in the format of beginning, middle, and end, where it feels like they're showing us the whole thing. Sometimes it's both that and spoilers. So some may disagree right off the bat, but just at least give me a chance to explain my rationale. Yes, this still would have been very predictable, but when it comes to Frozen Empire, I think this would have been the best course of action. Once again, we are referencing the teaser trailer here, the very first one they released, not the official / main trailer that we've seen most frequently, and not the one that dropped a week or two before the release that is dubbed the final trailer. It starts out by setting the scene of an ideal New York summer, but something feels off. Very quickly, and I mean like 30 seconds in, we see the giant storm cloud rolling across the ocean on the horizon. We see the first bit of ice at the 40-second mark. From there, we see the montage that plays late in the movie, but unbeknownst to us at the time of this trailer's release, that's all we would see of this Frozen Empire. I think that if they rolled out the movie the way that this trailer flowed, it would have worked much, much better. I believe the Frozen Empire aspect of the movie should have happened very early on, if not right away at the very beginning, like it does in this trailer. Maybe a bit of a tease for some build-up, create a little tension, a little mystery, provide a bit of backstory if they really still wanted to include the mystery ball and such. From that point on, though, the whole focus could have been on the Ghostbusters saving the world from this frozen wasteland, bringing all of the Ghostbusters, new and old, back together to save the day once more. This means the studio could still include all of their nostalgia, they could cut out all of the fluffy melody stuff that seemed pointless to me anyway, all of the characters could have had similar arc trajectories to what they were trying to do, I think, in the version we actually got. Like Phoebe learning to be a team player and figuring out who she is, Rudd's character fitting into his new role as a father figure of sorts, Trevor, played by Wolfhard, had nothing to do, but they could have easily incorporated something in there for him about, like, maturity and whatnot. Carrie Coon was also given absolutely nothing to do in the actual movie, so I'm sure they could have figured something out for her about, like, motherhood, even though they kind of already covered that in Afterlife, or even just learning to let her kids be their own people. Maybe they switch it up so Trevor is going off to college somewhere else. Maybe Phoebe is being bullied in school, or maybe she's just being too much of a helicopter parent. Anything. Like, they had so much potential with this one after what they established in Afterlife. A movie which I really enjoyed, I might add. A lot of other people seem to as well, considering in many review spaces it is the second highest reviewed, only behind the original, at least in terms of fan voting. The original Ghostbusters crew would have at least had a valid reason for coming back. Even if they didn't have the most deep arcs or anything, there would have been a solid reason for their presence. Similar to what they did in Afterlife once again. Like, yeah, they showed up for the briefest period of time possible, but it was so awesome. It was an incredible moment of marrying the new and the old, plus you had Ghost Spangler, with the family's permission, which they all could see in a few returning from before. It just felt so emotional and earned despite their brief appearance. I felt nothing in Frozen Empire, so at least bringing them back to stop the apocalypse would have been a good enough reason for them to come out of retirement. Or maybe since they were there at the end of Afterlife, they were all just Ghostbusters together now at the start of the movie, rather than having that other random new team who basically just existed to deliver more exposition or have this super high-tech stuff they've been working on so that they can magically explain stuff away. Everything would have just been given more meaning if the stakes were substantially elevated. I mean, they would be fighting through a full-blown apocalypse, the next ice age. All of those other ghosts could have still been let out, and terrorizing the city, trying to save New York and stop this madness from spreading to the rest of the world. Kumail's character could have played the exact same role as the Fire Master or whatever. The villain could have been given a lot more time to shine. New Yorkers cheering on the Ghostbusters at the end after the day is saved would actually make some sense. Everything would have just carried so much more weight, in my opinion. Not to mention, we would have gotten to see so much more of the city and the actual Frozen Empire from the title. They had such a cool opportunity here to show us New York through this lens and having the Ghostbusters fight their way through some iconic locations. A big final battle in a frozen Times Square would have been unbelievably badass. So some of you may be scratching your heads like, how can I possibly think this would save the movie? Could anything have saved this movie? Maybe you think this idea is just dumb altogether, or maybe you just don't care, which is totally cool too, or maybe you liked the movie to begin with and you don't think it needs any fixing. But here is why I think this would have saved the movie. Basically just a quick rundown of everything I just said in a sense. Everyone could have gotten what they wanted out of the movie if they did it this way. Sony, the producers responsible for the movie, could have had their nostalgia they so desperately want to cram down our throats in here in a much more natural and far less egregious way. There would have been a natural way to bring the two teams together, the new and the old, and by giving us more time in the Frozen Empire, we could have seen more locations again from the first two movies and more ghosts from the past. As for what everyone else wanted from this, I'm sure we all want at least a hint of that nostalgia / fan service. But we also would have gotten plenty of new too. A cool new setting and atmosphere for the series. We could have cut out the slow build-up and useless side plots. Every character would have undergone some kind of change with more meaningful character arcs and gotten a time to shine. And they also would have had the opportunity to really do something to shock audiences, or keep them engaged at least, by making us genuinely fear for our characters, by again truly elevating the stakes to full-blown apocalypse level. So before anyone says it, no, none of these ideas are dramatic changes or wild departures from what we got, because this kind of video, these easy fixes so to speak, aren't about completely rewriting the story or going in a completely different direction. They're about taking the foundation of what we actually got and rearranging it into a more satisfying final product. Or at least what I believe would have been more satisfying. And that, ladies, gentlemen, and movie lovers of all kind, is what I feel went wrong with Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, and what they could have done to avoid this and effectively save the movie from series low reviews and box office numbers. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments below if you agree or disagree with my take on this particular topic. While you're at it, don't forget to let me know what you thought of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Did I accurately pick out the problems with the movie? Was I able to offer up satisfying solutions? Do you think these ideas could have saved the movie? Let me know down in the comments below. As a reminder, this is the revamped BAMTube Movies, and it is your one-stop for everything movies. Be it video essays like this one, ranking videos, top 10s versus videos, tier list videos, I have it all and so much more, along with your daily nerdy news wrap-ups. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that little bell icon so you don't miss a thing. As always, folks, I thank you so very much for watching. Stay happy, healthy, and safe out there. From myself and the rest of the BAMTube team, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time, and that's a wrap.